It was a Saturday like no other, one that started off with the kind of quiet peace I had been dreaming of for weeks. I was David Matthews, chief of police in Maple Ridge, a place that had always felt like home to Maya's sanctuary, even. But what we don't often realize when we're living a perfect day is that it could all be shattered in an instant. And that's exactly what happened to me. It started like any other Saturday. The sun was shining, casting a warm glow across my backyard. The air was thick with the sweet smell of jasmine, the very same jasmine my wife, Caroline, had planted years ago. She's a landscape architect, a woman who can turn the most barren patch of land into a paradise. Our backyard, it was her masterpiece. And well, I was just the lucky guy who got to sit back and admire it. I was sitting on the patio, a glass of iced tea beside me, my book resting in my lap, but unread. Caroline was in the pool, floating lazily on her back, her long dark hair floating in a halo around her. At 45, she looked more radiant than the day I first met her. She was my calm in the storm, the steady anchor in my chaotic world. We'd built this life from the ground up, brick by brick, dream by dream. We'd faced our share of challenges, but here in our backyard, none of that mattered. It was a perfect day, until it wasn't. I was about to head inside to make us some fresh lemonade when I heard a sound that didn't belong. A metallic clink from the side gate. I froze. Caroline had heard it too. We never used that gate. It was for maintenance crews, landscapers, people who tended to our property. My brow furrowed. I didn't have any service scheduled today. I looked at Caroline. Her face went from relaxed to curious, then confused. Then it shifted again. That's when I saw her walking into our backyard with the kind of confidence that only comes from someone who has never had to earn a damn thing in their life. A young woman, maybe 20. Blonde hair pulled back into a high ponytail. A pristine white polo tucked into a pink pleated skirt. And a phone clutched in one hand. "Excuse me, do you need help?" Caroline called out, her voice even, calm, though I could sense the growing irritation. The girl, let's call her Jessica, didn't even glance at Caroline. She was too busy talking on her phone, completely oblivious to the fact that she had just trespassed onto private property. "No, I told you, Daddy said the new house is amazing. The backyard's huge. I'm looking at it right now." Her voice dripped with entitlement, as if our backyard was her personal playground. I stayed hidden behind the sliding glass door, watching the situation unfold. I could feel the familiar itch in my chest. This was not right. Caroline's arms were crossed now, her body language shifting. She was annoyed, and she had every right to be. This wasn't just some clueless kid. This was a full-on invasion of our privacy, and I was seeing it firsthand. The girl finally ended her call, but the moment she looked at Caroline, I saw a shift in her expression. Her entitled demeanor faltered, but not for long. Her eyes scanned our yard, then landed on Caroline, floating in the pool, enjoying the moment. And that's when Jessica's face twisted into a scowl. She didn't see a homeowner. She didn't see a woman in her own pool. No, in her narrow, privileged world, she saw only one thing: to help. "Excuse me," Jessica called, her voice dripping with condescension. "Yeah, you can get out now. My parents just bought the house next door, and we were told we have access to the community pool. So, I'm going to need you to wrap it up." She made a dismissive gesture with her hand, as if she were directing an employee. My blood boiled, but I held my ground. I wasn't going to let this go down the way it seemed it was going. Caroline wasn't intimidated. Not one bit. She floated there, unshaken, a quiet strength radiating from her. "I think you're mistaken," she said, her voice calm but laced with ice. "This is not a community pool. This is a private residence." Jessica let out a sharp, disbelieving laugh. "Oh, that's cute," she mocked. "Really? You're funny." She put her hands on her hips. "Look, my dad's Bob Coington. Maybe you've heard of him? He doesn't like to be kept waiting." At that moment, I knew the storm was coming. My instincts as a cop were screaming at me to step in, to take control of the situation. But I looked at Caroline. She wasn't scared. She was angry, deeply so. But more than that, she was disappointed. Disappointed that this kind of casual, ugly racism could show up in her life, in our own backyard. But I wasn't about to rush out there and let my emotions take over. This required precision, not a sledgehammer. I kept calm and let Jessica dig herself deeper. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to assert myself as the police chief. She was going to do all the work for me. Caroline raised an eyebrow, her voice dangerously quiet as she repeated, "I think you're mistaken." Jessica's cocky smile faltered. "I'm Bob Covington's daughter. We paid for this. You're just the help." Caroline's chin rose higher, a gesture of both pride and defiance. "No, I'm not. And you're trespassing on private property." I walked outside, my presence alone enough to change the energy in the air. Jessica's face turned from confusion to horror, and when she saw me standing there in a suit, arms folded, I could feel the shift. "Is there a problem here?" I asked, my voice low, steady. She stammered, unable to comprehend the fact that the man she thought was just a random employee of the property was, in fact, the homeowner. "I'm the owner of this home. And this," I said, gesturing to my wife, "is my wife, Caroline. You're trespassing, and you're insulting her." The color drained from Jessica's face. "Now, I'm going to ask you to leave. You're not welcome here." I could feel the adrenaline in the air, the tension, the immediate shift in power. But just as Jessica was about to leave, her mother, Carol, stormed in. A woman whose sense of entitlement was so vast it seemed to fill the entire street. She saw me standing there and assumed I was just another lackey. "What's going on here?" she demanded. "Who are you?" I could feel Caroline tense beside me. Carol wasn't just a problem. She was a Forsythia storm of entitlement, demanding respect for her name without understanding what it meant to earn it. "My daughter," Carol sneered, "is a Covington. Do you know who we are?" I raised an eyebrow. "Yes, I know who you are." And then I dropped the bomb. "I'm the chief of police. This is my property. And you, Mrs. Covington, are trespassing." The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. Her world was falling apart in front of her. Her arrogance, her sense of superiority, all of it came crashing down with those words. Caroline and I stood there, calm, unshaken, while Carol tried to backpedal. But it was too late. The damage was done. Later that night, Caroline and I discussed what had happened. She was tired of people like the Covingtons thinking they could take whatever they wanted. And I knew then I was going to make sure they paid for it. Not with a punch or a badge, but with the system. And I went to work. I pulled every legal string I could find, starting with the HOA and city ordinances. I knew where to dig. And when I found their violations, it felt like fate was giving me a gift. The Covingtons had built their wealth by exploiting the system. Now, it was time for the system to return the favor. I filed complaints. I made calls. I put their entire empire under a microscope, digging into their financials. I wasn't going to stop until they paid for their arrogance. And when the news hit that Bob Covington was under investigation, well, that was the moment I knew I had won. The Covingtons' downfall was slow but inevitable. The fines piled up, their financial empire crumbled, and soon, their name was a joke. And the final touch? Seeing Tiffany, the entitled princess, working as a barista in a coffee shop. It was karmic perfection. I watched her serve us, no longer the queen of her kingdom, but a lowly servant. And when I saw her face, her eyes wide with shock, I couldn't help but savor the irony. This wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability. It was about showing the world that no matter how rich or powerful, was above the law. So, here's the thing, sometimes life has a way of teaching us lessons in ways we never expect. But you know what? That lesson is always more satisfying when it comes wrapped in the perfect Saturday afternoon. And that's how I got my peace back. What do you think? Was I right to let the system handle it? Or did I take it too far? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.